An Irminsul was a kind of pillar which is attested as playing an important role in the Germanic paganism of the Saxon people. The oldest chronicle describing an Irminsul refers to it as a tree trunk erected in the open air. The purpose of the Irminsuls and the implications thereof have been the subject of considerable scholarly discourse and speculation for hundreds of years. Etymology. A Germanic god Irmin, inferred from the name Irminsul and the tribal name Irminsuls, is sometimes presumed to have been the national god or demigod of the Saxons. It has been suggested that Irmin was more probably an aspect or epithet of some other deity, most likely Woden. Irmin might also have been an epithet of the god Zu in early Germanic times, only later transferred to Odin, as certain scholars subscribe to the idea that Odin replaced Tyr as the chief Germanic deity at the onset of the migration period. This was the favored view of early 20th century Nordicist writers, but it is not generally considered likely in modern times. The Old Norse form of Irmin is Jormun, which, just like Ygr, was one of the names of Odin. Yggdrasil was the yew or ash tree from which Odin sacrificed himself, and which connected the nine worlds. Jacob Grimm connects the name Irmin with Old Norse terms like Armungrand or Warmunganda. Attestations. Royal Frankish Annals. According to the Royal Frankish Annals, during the Saxon Wars, Charlemagne is repeatedly described as ordering the destruction of the chief seat of the religion, an Irminsul. The Irminsul is described as not being far from Harrisburg, Germany. Jacob Grimm states that strong reasons point to the actual location of the Irminsul as being approximately 15 miles away, in the Teutoburg forest, and states that the original name for the region, Osning, may have meant holy wood. De Miraculi Sancti Alexandri. The Benedictine monk Rudolf of Fulda provides a description of an Irminsul in Chapter 3 of his Latin work De Miraculi Sancti Alexandri. Rudolf's description states that the Irminsul was a great wooden pillar erected and worshipped beneath the open sky, and that its name, Irminsul, signifies universal all-sustaining pillar. Hildesheim. Under Louis the Pious in the 9th century, a stone column was dug up at Obermarsberg in Westphalia, Germany, and relocated to the Hildesheim Cathedral in Hildesheim, Lower Saxony, Germany. The column was reportedly then used as a candelabrum until at least the late 19th century. In the 13th century, the destruction of the Irminsul by Charlemagne was recorded as having still been commemorated at Hildesheim on the Saturday after Latter Sunday. The commemoration was reportedly done by planting two poles 6 feet high, each surmounted by a wooden object 1 foot in height shaped like a pyramid or a cone on the cathedral square. The youth then used sticks and stones in an attempt to knock over the object. This custom is described as existing elsewhere in Germany, particularly in Halberstadt, where it was enacted on the day of Latter Sunday by the canons themselves. Kaiser chronic awareness of the significance of the concept seems to have persisted well into Christian times. For example, in the 12th century Kaiser chronic, an Irminsul is mentioned in 3 instances. Concerning the origin of the Wednesday, eine Irminsuls zu und ein Abgottanscheier, das Heisen Cia Chaufmann. On an Irminsul stands an enormous idol, which they call the merchant. Concerning Julius Caesar, Romer in ungetruerlich Surgeon, sin geben sie auf einer Irminsul begraben. The Romans slew him treacherously, and buried his bones on an Irminsul. Concerning Nero, auf einer Irminsul stage, das Land folgt ihm alle Nige. He climbed upon an Irminsul. The peasants all bowed before him. Hypotheses. A number of theories surround the subject of the Irminsul. Germania. In Tacitus' Germania, the author mentions rumors of what he describes as pillars of Hercules in land inhabited by the Frisi that had yet to be explored. Tacitus adds that these pillars exist either because Hercules actually did go there or because the Romans have agreed to ascribe all marvels anywhere to Hercules' credit. Tacitus states that while Drusus Germanica was daring in his campaigns against the Germanic tribes, he was unable to reach this region, and that subsequently no one had yet made the attempt. Connections have been proposed between these pillars of Hercules and later accounts of the Irminsuls. Hercules was probably frequently identified with Thor by the Romans due to the practice of interpretatio Romana. Externsteiner relief and site. According to one particularly well-known suggestion, an Irminsul was situated at or near the Externsteiner, a famous rock formation near Detmold, Germany. A Christian relief on the Externsteiner depicts what has been described as a bent tree-like design at the feet of Nicodemus. This artwork, variously dated to the early 9th to early 12th century AD, is popularly believed to represent the bent of fallen Irminsul beneath a triumphant Christianity. While both the artwork and the Irminsul were known to scholars for centuries, Goethe, for example, discussed the relief in detail, they were not connected until the 1929 interpretation of lay archaeologist Wilhelm Tude. In 1934 to 1935, the Arnonib undertook extensive fieldwork in an attempt to uncover material evidence of the use of the Externsteiner as a place of Germanic paganism worship, yet no such evidence was found. Few modern scholars consider it anything but an outright invention of Tude, who did not provide evidence to back his claims. Today it is generally accepted by historians that there is no historic attestation connecting the Externsteiner to the Irminsul. Certainly, the Eresberg was only about 45 kilometers from the Externsteiner, and there indeed was an Irminsul near the Externsteiner. But extensive archaeological studies of the Externsteiner have failed to yield any material evidence for the use as a sacred site between Mesolithic and pre-Christian times. Thermoluminescence dating of fire sites suggests that the site was occasionally used as a rock shelter in Saxon times, but apparently not to the extent one would expect from a major place of worship. Jupiter columns. Comparisons have been made between the Irminsul and the Jupiter columns that were erected along the Rhine in Germania around CE 2 and 3. Scholarly comparisons were once made between the Irminsul and the Jupiter columns. However, Rudolf Sumek states that the columns were of Gallo-Roman religious monuments, and that the reported location of the Irminsul in Eresberg does not fall within the area of the Jupiter column archaeological finds. Neopaganism. A depiction of an Irminsul based on the Externsteiner relief is used in some currents of Germanic neopaganism.